nobody better than you. Oh, take me anywhere you want, I go follow you. Yeah, I go follow you. Oh, where see your way, where see your way, where let's come in, yeah. Camino te mueres a oh God, you surprise me. I don't understand how you love me. You didn't want to chop it, cause you really can sound so choppy. You love me this back and forth. Take me anywhere I will go. You love me this back and forth. Take me anywhere I will go. Hey, there's nobody better than you. Papa, nobody better than you. Oh, take me anywhere you want, I go follow you. Yeah, I go follow you. Oh, where see your way. We see your way. Well, let's come in over. Yeah, come in over. Well, let's come in over. When they see me out in the air, they don't know what I've been through. When me presents flying at the air, they don't know just me and you. So take it Lord, take it higher. We don't depress, we magnify. We never stop into the fire. To the fire, take it Lord, take it higher. We don't depress, we magnify. We never stop into the fire. Take me Lord, where you want me. Yeah. You have to hold me when the fall. Well, it's coming away. I'm coming away. What's up, everybody? This is MS.ABA again. We are here again, and I'm just playing that record to still give you that, that radio feel, because man, I miss being at the radio station. But we have to adapt wherever it's necessary. Anyway, I'll just mention the artist that you just listened to. You just listened to UL with Impiqua on their record called Yahweh, and of course it's Sunday again. You are here with me. Or should I say, Ayo, it's me again, MS.ABA, your host for Africa on Focus. And this is actually a very interesting one because we are on lockdown specials. And lockdown specials mean that we are tuning in with you live from the city of Amsterdam, but just from home. So I am homebound still, which is absolutely not a problem for me because work continues. I should say, as someone who's also, as next to a radio personality and a music artist, in a brand and communication consulting, a lot of the job that we do is from home. So I am, I have got my water bottles stacked. What else do I have? I have all of my snacks stacked and everything right here at the home office and working from home. I thought I wouldn't be able to adapt, but one thing at the same time, which is not too difficult for me, is managing ways to adapt. So it is not the end of the world. God is still good. And obviously, thankful to be alive and strong on this particular day. On Africa on Focus today, we have some interesting topics, very relevant topics. As we are going to discuss, I have a special guest who I will have in a bit. And also later on, I'll have my panelists coming on from Let's Chat Africa, which is a bi-monthly segment on this show where I invite global Africans, and we talk about things that matter, things that are engaging, things that are inspiring, educative, and so much more. And today we are going to discuss, of course, we can't go around it, Black Lives Matter, global systematic changes, and the problems of Black people, quote unquote problems, because and what all of that is, we're going to talk about that in a bit. It is just say 7:36 p.m. In the city of Amsterdam, CET, and we are tuning in with you. In the meantime, if you are watching us on Facebook, because we are also streaming on YouTube, if you are watching us there, make sure that you share it on your timeline. Invite every people, people that you know are going to be, willing to engage, willing to talk, to come on and, talk to us about all that is going on in our world, in the world of African people. You are listening to High Radio, and High Radio, you can listen, of course, on the website www.highradionnl.com, and of course on all our social media platforms. But if you really want to see a face to those that we are talking to, you should definitely tune in via Facebook. And on YouTube, you can go over to Africa Unfocused, which is my channel, and tune into this conversation. Let me get Donnie on board. Donnie, my co-host, I've been wondering how his week has been doing. And further on, we're going to announce our next guest who will be joining us as of today. So let me just get Donnie on here on this conversation. Hello, Donnie.
Hi, hello, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you doing?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You're looking all like, ready for the occasion. It seems like I was almost going to say, it seems like you've been to church, but church is not open yet.
Yeah, I seem a little bit more ready for vacation this week than I was last week. But yeah, it's all vibes, just
Yeah.
vibing, pretty much.
You
How?
yeah, you got rid of the beard.
Ah, is that what happened? Yeah, I got rid
Yeah,
of the
that's what I
beard. I
see.
mean,
You got rid of the beard, right? What happened?
lockdown is almost over. Yeah, so yeah, there goes my
Yeah, it is.
lockdown
Let's
beard.
let's just say hopefully your lockdown beard. Yeah, that's the name for it. Absolutely, absolutely. You were like, you know what? I'm tired of this depressing look, and all that comes with it. So let me just deal with the situation.
No,
How
no,
was your
beard
week?
is not a depressing look.
Is it?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not a depressing look. It's I mean, people with the having a beard is a fun thing. For me, it just was like, all right. So we're in this state where you just have to represent, and actually, also in history, I mean, people by their ways of let's say um of dressing and actually
Yeah.
activities, they also represented the era that they were in or they are in. That's why when you go
Mm-hmm.
back to, let's say, culture and stuff, just by looking at
Yeah.
how people were dressing, you could tell in
Mhm.
what time they were. So for me,
Right.
just taking that concept, I was like, all right, so all right, the corona's about to start. And actually, what happened was barbers were also shut down for
Quite
some
some time.
months,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So pretty much you couldn't even get a haircut. So I mean, living, growing my beard was, just a representation of that event. So if I go back in my pictures or go back to the high radio footage, I'll be like, wait, what happened in 2020? Why was my beard that big? We'd be like, hey, that was the lockdown edition and stuff going on. So yeah.
That is a strong, that is a good way to flip it, really.
Yep. Yeah.
that
Yeah. Put some thought into it.
that is really a good way to flip it, absolutely. But I see that, as the lockdown is almost over, you were like, you know what, let's deal with this, and
Yeah.
move on with life. And how was your week? How has the partial lockdown been treating you? I know studies was
Oh,
really a thing.
yeah, I mean, still on it. Nothing much have changed from, let's say, the week before, but
Hmm.
still working on my thesis and etc. So yeah,
Yeah.
over here it's been calm. How's it on your end?
Here it has been the same. I've just been, with a lots of bottle of waters, keeping myself hydrated, and been working from here. Here is basically, where the office has been. I must say that a
Yeah.
lot of things that have been going on in the news, I have been taking some time to really understand what's going on in our world.
Mm,
I kind of dived into particular videos, which I should break down and dive into books because that is really
mm-hmm,
helpful. But I kind of took
mm-hmm.
the time to watch some videos from Minister Farrakhan, and also some Trevor Noah always has this light-weighted way of bringing on a perspective on things. So I've been
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
diving into that, kind of watching some older video as it relates to the problems that we are in today that are
Mm-hmm.
absolutely have nothing to do with that with COVID-19, which we are in, but have to do with the particular systems that we live in. So
Right, right, right.
it's been I don't know why that is, but I've actually been diving into that and kind of listening to what Black leaders are saying. Have things really changed? Are we being
Yeah.
fooled? All of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a very enlightening week, I must say.
Well, did you have time to also go outside
I did.
of your
I
home?
did.
Okay.
Absolutely. I took some time out just to go out and walk to the grocery store so that I would get some exercise. As far as the
Every
other
day?
exercise, not every day, but
Okay.
I did do indoors exercises, to keep the body at health.
Hey.
And yeah, I did. I
Okay.
did. And
Summer 2020 ready?
no, my mission and now is really to get like a to build like a good foundation of being healthy. And yeah, definitely, because I don't know, I'm somebody, I don't like to kind of focus on this body and this, because I go crazy, and I go overboard. So I've managed to kind of create some type of peaceful living where I'm like, okay, let's just work on this healthy life. We want to be 40 and want to
Yeah.
be healthy,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
let's do some long-term things that I could take on as a lifestyle, basically. So
Right, right.
that's really a thing. And I've been also diving into all kinds of new type of vitamins, which is, I recently discovered black seed oil that supposedly is very good, for your body and those type of stuff.
Oh, I mean, hey, you've been doing a lot
Yeah,
as
yeah,
I hear. Okay, that's
absolutely,
great. That's great.
absolutely. As for that, I think it's important to keep up with knowledge, and I think that also Paul Grave encouraged a piece of that by being
Hmm.
being somebody that you have to be on point with things, studying, preparing. You know what I mean? I don't know what he did, but all of the stuff that he talked about last time,
See, now
kind of
I'm here in the shirt. Do you see that?
exactly. You
I'm
see what
here in
kind
a
of impact
shirt.
you see what kind of impact he made. That's the impact of Palgrave, or what he did with the interviewer last time. And that shirt, yeah, is proof. I'm gonna screenshot and send him a message on that. Definitely.
I
So good.
almost wearing a tie, but I was like, all right, that's pushing it.
You're like, oh, that's
That's
that's a, that's
pushing
a
it.
bit pushing it too much, right?
That's
But but
yeah. I mean,
but you've done well, and I think that Eben, who will be joining us in a bit, will also be happy that you've dropped the bottle and you now have a glass. You have a mug. That's what you have.
this
So
is a
that's
mug,
good.
and this a Christmas mug. So
It's
holiday
it's a
season mug.
Christmas.
Yep.
It's a Christmas mug. Absolutely. I'm going to alert him on that. So well, again, it's such a pleasure to have you on another Sunday to talk about what's going on in our
Thank
world.
you.
Black Lives Matters. I think I even Father's Day, I visited my dad today, and he was watching a football match, and I even saw Black Lives Matters on the t-shirts of
Yeah,
the
I saw
the
that yesterday
players.
as well. Yeah, that's so big. That's very that's important. I mean, I felt kind of like, oh, oh, nice.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
that
I
was
I
a good thing too.
Exactly. I didn't realize that, I'm not into football and things like that. But I think that, especially because, the sports and even the people that play that sports, it's so diverse, and
Yeah.
it's a very relevant topic, I think, even to this day. Because it
Yeah.
was even my, because I have a nephew who's into football, and he's on his way to this, professional part. And he's like in his teens, and he
Hmm.
made the decision to go from, I think, Feyenoord to Ajax, basically.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was some kind of news, and he announced it on his Instagram page. And people went in on the comments, and these crazy football fanatics, you monkey this, you this
Yeah. Yeah.
that, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
is crazy, because you would think that, or you would be of the assumption that, hey, this is a sports that covers all kinds of colors, where black people again play such a strong role in. You know what I mean? And you have the audacity as a fan to, call somebody out
Oh yeah.
on their race, which is
Hmm.
just baffles me. So I really think that within that particular industry, sports, it is such a relevant topic, if you ask me.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's why I was very glad to see that on their shirts. I was like, okay. But I mean, what when it comes to the Premier League, and actually soccer in general, they've been. I mean, the teams have been supportive. Wasn't it last year that we discussed that the president of Rwanda had bought like advertisements or something for from the team of Arsenal, where they would advertise one of the companies, African
Hmm.
companies, on their shirts. So when it
Right.
comes to partnerships, footballs or soccer teams are, let's say, less hesitant or actually
Yeah.
more proactive into working with diverse groups on anything pretty
Yeah.
much. So that's great. I mean, Barcelona also has I think a charity that they sponsor on their shirts and stuff. So yeah, I wasn't. It's a good thing.
It's a
Soccer
good way
is an amazing
forward.
sport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a sign of, we are understanding the problem the more. That is really what's taking place. Speaking of Black Life Matters, it's a topic that has been, ongoing, and we basically can't go around it. Also, even here in the city of Amsterdam, in a couple of major cities here in the Netherlands, people
Hmm.
have been, demonstrating and voicing out their frustration with, this Black Lives things. And in every country it expresses itself in different forms, also
Right.
here in the Netherlands. And
Hmm.
as this has been going on, Amsterdam has really played a major role into us standing out, against the inequality, and also the crazy systems that are embedded in our society, our Western society, as of today. And us being Ghanaian, and being here in the community, seeing also a lot of our brothers and sisters going on there to demonstrate, really spoke out to me a lot. And
Hmm.
I was really happy to see some Ghanaians on there, alongside one of Holland's noted Dutch speaking rapper, Ekwesi, and also some other community leaders who had the
Yeah.
opportunity to speak to young people, all kinds of people alike, of color. So, as our topic was going to touch on that anyway, I thought it was really, really good to invite somebody that quite had a speech at the last demonstration in Amsterdam Southeast in Belmer that sort of went viral. And to really talk to him about, how important it is to really take a stand on the Black Lives Matters topics. And also, him being somebody of faith, I was really curious to see how he connects the two, so that that conversation, could be taken on. So, without further ado, I will introduce our first guest that we have on before we're going to go on to our bi monthly discussion, which is Let's Chat Africa, who is a noted personality that is, well known within, especially the Amsterdam Ghanaian community as a leader, a pastor, and also one who voiced out, standing out, also with the love of Christ. Um, um, out there against all of the inequality that's going on. And his name is Byron Quanning. I've actually asked him last minute to come on board and to have the conversation with us. So I've seen his face, in the backstage room. So let's get him on board and give him a virtual applause so that he could be a part of this conversation. Hello, Byron. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm so fine. I'm good. Can everyone hear me, by the way? Can you hear me?
Absolutely, absolutely. We
Oh,
can
I can
hear
hear
perfect.
you.
you.
Thing.
You're good.
Bunny, good to see you, man.
Your
Good to see you
connection
too,
is
man.
Yeah,
your
good.
connection is strong.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, I'm doing
Great.
well. I'm so honored to be on this platform. So thank you guys for having me, man. It's nothing more fun than just having a heart to heart. Just a discussion with Donny. I know Donny for a while. I know you from afar, and I admire you and respect you from afar. So I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Thank you,
oh, good.
likewise.
So people, we know each other. That's basically, it's always a
Win-win,
hi,
win-win.
hello, how are you thing, and at some stage the connection just takes on another height. So here we are.
That's right.
How has been your Sunday? I always ask, whoever comes on the show, how was your Sunday?
I'm good.
Um,
No, my Sunday was good. I just came back from service, and it was awesome. It was blessed, and we talked about prayers, the importance of prayers, that it's really essential. So
yeah,
basically, to every problem, we should respond not in fear but in faith. So which will require prayers.
for
So
sure.
yeah,
Agreed with that. And well, let's get this thing started because we know you, we know your face. You're a musician as well. You're on top of so many things. But if we are to ask Byron in your own words, who is Byron?
woo. That's a whole bunch. No, I'm just kidding. Um, Byron is a husband
Mhm.
for almost 2 years now. So I'm a really, really proud husband. I'm a father for 4 months now. Um,
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. And I'm also a youth leader. I'm a pastor for I think since November. By God's grace, I've been ordained to be a pastor.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
I'm down to earth. Ask Dunny. Yeah, I love people. I grew up in Amsterdam North, and I'm 31 years old. What else? Um, I love joking
What do you
around.
stand for?
What do I stand for? I stand for Jesus Christ, bro. Yeah. So basically, that's me in a nutshell.
Right. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you again, Byron.
Thank
and
you.
and it's so good because how you see all of that what you do has to do with connecting people or somewhat at least relating to people within your community. um we or let's just say what I saw on my timeline, you had a mini viral moment, let me just put it that way. You had your viral moment, and it was not of any bad reason at all. It was actually of a good reason, and that had to do with your video. You gave a speech at this Black Lives demonstration. Could you shed a bit more light on that? What
Yeah,
happened?
definitely.
How did you get there, and what was that?
Um, yeah, to start off with, it began actually that one of the organizers, they approached me and they asked me if I could just share a word of encouragement, and I was like, yeah, sure, but let me check with my pastors, and see if we can do that. And they just gave me a go ahead, and I was there. And then at that, I think the backstage, one of the organizers actually let me know that it was actually through my brother-in-law that they referred. He referred me to them, so or them
Mm.
to me. So they were like, he's young, he's vibrant. Why don't you guys ask him? So basically, he was the cause of me standing there, and the rest is history. Yes, I was like, I need to share a word of encouragement and be real at the same time. So
Yeah.
it was just a message that God placed upon my heart, and I was just privileged and so honored and grateful for the ability to do so.
Yeah. And speaking of Black Lives Matter, that and faith, one would think that, um I don't know, some people would think that the two are very unrelatable, something that is very relatable. How does that connect? What even brought you there?
Well, I think the issue of racism is an issue that touches everyone. It doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what you believe in. It touches everything. So some might, choose to be ignorant about it, but
Yeah.
it touches everyone. And I think, like in the speech I mentioned as well, is that racism is not a skin issue, but it's a sin issue. And
Hmm.
for that matter already, we as believers, we understand that Jesus Christ came to die and to live again, so that the power of sin no longer needs to control us. So anything that is sin, Jesus actually came, to pay the debt that we could not pay, and to actually give us the power against sin. And so
Hmm.
that's why racism, some might have different opinions. It is a sin issue. And for that matter, I was so grateful that the church could actually have a platform, to speak and voice it out.
Yeah. Most definitely, most definitely. Well, if we look at you, you are in this position of being influential, and you're leading young people in church, and people are interacting with you on, I think, a weekly basis. How do what role do you think faith should play into this, or the church should play into this current problem that we have?
Well, I think first of all, we should definitely talk about it. I think one of the strong skills of the leader is to see what the issue, or see what the issue is, what people are going through, and being able to create a platform to talk about it, and seek for solutions. Because the thing is, as we all know, I think many have yelled that silence means you've chosen the side of the oppressor or anything. And I think
Yeah.
um, we shouldn't be ignorant. And I believe you guys are my witnesses that I think on this topic many people have been ignorant. Even to the extent that after the speech I was called by a white pastor who found my number somewhere, and he thanked me for the speech, and he was 40 plus, and he admitted that he was for all of his lifetime he has been ignorant. And it was not until this whole George Floyd stuff happened that he dived into Black history, slavery, and stuff, and he admitted that he had been ignorant. And
Hmm.
that conversation, I didn't know him from anywhere. We just spoke, and eventually we spoke like 30 minutes, and it was such a relieving conversation. Just having that acknowledgement, and someone admitting that I've been ignorant, and not only white people, but even Black people have been ignorant as well. And I think it is really important for us to, I think reconciliation starts with when we have uncomfortable conversations,
Hmm.
with white people, with Black people, with Asian, whoever you are. And then try to, like I said, intentionally get to know the other person beyond the skin. And I think that what the church stands for is a universal thing. I said the ministry of the gospel is the ministry of reconciliation, that we becoming one. So we're coming because we have one God, we have one Father, and we came to lift Him up. And the relationship with God breaks boundaries. It breaks social boundaries, cultural boundaries, you name it, financial boundaries. So you might be a CEO in the secular world, but
Mhm.
in the church, you're my brother, you're my sister. That the fact that you are a boss in a company doesn't mean that you're a boss in the church. Just to put it in that sense, and I think it is really essential for the church to actually emulate the characteristics of God, which is unity, because even the God that we serve is a God of unity. He's not a God of distraction, a God of confusion. He's a God of order. And I think we will do so much well if, as a church, we will just take the forefront that whenever injustice is being done, in what way that we will let people understand that the world's problems is a matter that the church should be able to handle and should be able to answer, because I believe we have the answers to every problem what is going out in the world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hear you.
You know,
Um,
it's
yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Can go on.
That's the online thing. You should just take it. Sometimes you just you
Claim it,
just
bro. Claim it.
misconnect.
Explain it. Explain it.
That's all right. But I was going to ask, if let's say, for instance, yeah. So yes, the church is, let's say, can take that role of uniting, with uniting people, and with an issue like a um black ma Black Lives Matter issue going on. What are one of the, let's say, obstructions or difficulties that you as a pastor or your church has faced in trying to bring this message of unity to, let's say, the Black community?
Mhm. Well, I think the question is not really which issue we have encountered sending out the message. I think more the issue has been people actually implementing the message out there, because I think the message of unity has always been clear, but I think people allow cultural barriers, language barriers to actually stop them from getting to know the other person. So I think um, you know Christianity is not just a mere religion; it's about relationship. And I think what would be so helpful is us being willing to be the bridge to other people, to all sorts of people. Uh, it came to a point that I actually realized that the church, it shouldn't be a Ghanaian church or a Asian church or a Spanish church. Unfortunately, it is there, and I quite understand, because the founder might be from a certain background, and so definitely
Hmm.
he easily relates to people from his own background or language or whatever. I understand that, but I think eventually we need to come to a point that we will not just see people, but our different races. We will see one race, the human race, as we all look towards Jesus. And I think the issue is that many people have been comfortable, even blacks have been comfortable, even our parents, some of us, they traveled all the way from Ghana, came here, and still they do not maximize the language. Not all, but some, simply because
Hmm.
they were comfortable enough to only um, engage with fellow Ghanaians, and they never took a risk or a discomfortable position by stepping out to really get to know a Dutch person, invite a Dutch person over to their homes, just go out, have a date or an appointment or whatever. We have all been doing that for all these years, so we have become used to, comfortable. But I think in our next generation it's becoming more easier, because we we we've been to school here. We have sat with white people, with Chinese, Asian, whatever, Spanish people. So to us, it's I think in our time, it's even in the position that we are in. Speaking of just the Netherlands and from our background, it's becoming more and more easier. And but I think the generation before us, it's like more a cultural and a language barrier, which is actually prohibiting people to get to know the other person.
Right. So what you're saying is basically, there is a good reason why young people have the opportunity to connect more with different groups of people. And that
Right.
would probably also be the reason why this Black Lives Matters demonstration in Amsterdam was so diverse, as
Right.
in terms of skin shade and even the cultural backgrounds.
Hmm. Exactly.
Definitely.
And I think definitely there has been a shift because, of course, we know that this racism thing is not from yesterday; it's from way back. But you can see difference. At least, even though racism will never be able to get rid of it, I believe if we can unite, at least we can turn from racism, from it being an issue into an incident that should no longer happen. But incidents do happen, of course. But I think the fact that we even have this platform already should tell us the times that we're living in. Because there were times and ages that we could not even have a platform, just as Black people, to talk about it. And I think one thing that people should understand, especially the white people, is that Black people have been going through stuff. There is this thing called white privilege, but many people think that we are talking about this because we want their guilt. We don't want their guilt, or at least I don't want their guilt. I want their responsibility to to actually voice out whenever they see injustice. So in
Hmm.
this case, it's the Black community. Tomorrow it might be
Mm.
you. And the thing is, you cannot be silenced regarding this matter. And I have so many white friends, so I know that it's not all white people. You have these ignorant people. They like what you said. I've been doing the same thing. Doing my homework, checking out Mr. Farrakhan and Black history, diving more into it. And you have people that are so into it, and they look at only through one lens. So they start actually. Creating a hate in them for white people, which is not the message of the gospel at all. But the
Hmm.
thing is, the message of the gospel is reconciliation. So anytime injustice has been done, you should be able to talk about it, because you can also see that even blacks amongst ourselves, we discriminate. We have tribalism, um,
Right.
and even that has its history. Some people always say, yeah, but Black people, they're not even one. And I always tell them, I just give them the other side of the coin, that, hey, do you know that that has an history as well? That Black people have been placed in positions that they had to betray one another, that just for survival, or their families were ripped apart. So it has
Mhm.
its background. But I think if we can be real about it. We can have open, uncomfortable discussions, and sincere, open-heartedly respectful. Definitely, I think it will make a change, because, like I said, the white pastor that called me, 40 years plus, admitting right now that he has been ignorant, already should let us know that there are many people out there that are just being ignorant. That if they
Yeah.
could just have a date with Donnie, that they will have a different perspective about a Ghanaian or a Black person. If they would have a conversation with you, Miss.ABA, that they would have a total different perspective, because we all have like prejudice in us. Everyone has that.
Mhm.
And I think, this barrier and this prejudice, we can help a lot by just, being intentional about, getting to know a person instead of, judging, or, having your prejudgment regarding that race or whatever.
Yeah. So there you also discover that, people of the same faith could be on total different sides when it comes to the matter of color. Have you experienced racism anywhere in your life that you still have engraved in your head?
Oh, definitely. One situation that I will never forget. I was working at a translation agency, and what we do is we arrange appointments between lawyers and translators, or interpreters. And I had this man that I was looking up his file, but I couldn't get him. But he was spelling out his name, but not knowing. He had his last name consisted out of three words, but not knowing it was without a space. So I just couldn't get it. I just didn't seem to find it. And I was like, sir, I'm not able to, to look you up. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can bear with me, I'll just put you on hold. I'll be right back. So I did not put him on hold, but I put him on mute. So I could hear him. He couldn't hear me. And he said, ah, die allochtonen weer. So in Dutch, So in English, it would be, those foreigners again. And this
Yeah.
man is a asylum lawyer. And to me, it struck me to my heart. I was so much in shock. I did not even know what to do. Even after the call, I realized that this man was actually, it was racism to the core. That
Right.
the fact that he could hear that I was having maybe a bit of an accent, that he could just be agitated in such a manner because I'm from a different, race or whatever. And
Yeah.
that kind of struck me. And I think that the painful thing of racism is that it's not easily discovered. So
Hmm.
like all these videos we've been seeing, these are videos that have been captured, but there are so many incidents that were never, or has never been captured. And so that makes it sometimes so, um, so difficult, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's not just in a mere word that has been pronounced to you, but maybe just by the look of someone's eye, you just felt, less of a person. It could just be a decision that was taken, and you just felt like, it's like, we as Black people, we every now and then question ourselves that, uh, why do we don't have what they have, or why do we need to work extra hard? I've been saying that we as a Black person, we have like kind of embraced it, that we need to work twice as hard as white people, and that's wrong already. So but basically, that is one of the examples that I've encountered, regarding, feeling less of a person, regards to this subject. Yeah.
Mm.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I mean, it's something that confronts, let's just say, all of us colored people in some way. And before we'll almost round it up. In the meantime, I just want to give a shout out to a few people that came and logged in. Mensa Gari, my colleague from the Y Zone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Lexi Frimpong, also a shout out to you for tuning in. And in the meantime, if you still have some last questions or last some motivational words to share as we talk with Byron, could you, your last name? How do I pronounce it well?
It's a thing I don't
Mm.
even know myself. Some say Quaining, Kwaning. Yeah, I would say Quaining.
Oh, okay, okay, good.
Yeah,
Because I always hate it when we kind of murder down our,
Ah,
yeah, we're
Ghanaian
good at
names
it.
with
We're
our
good at
Dutch
that.
accent, and sometimes it's just, and I
wait,
don't want to do that to people.
No, no,
isn't
no.
isn't isn't your last name your surname? Is that not an Ghanaian
It is.
name? It
It
is.
is. Yeah, it is.
Um, the A, right?
Mhm.
Is that pronounced an A in Chi or an A?
Well,
An
the thing is,
A.
I asked my dad, and he said Quaining.
Yeah.
So I just went, I just
Okay,
rolled with it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, take it
I
from your
I
dad.
yeah,
don't.
let's roll with that.
So,
But if your dad say queening, well, yeah, queening it is.
daddy knows best. So.
Let's roll with that. We should take it. We should
Mm.
take it, Queenie. Let me see. Here's a comment from Richie AT, who says racism is easily felt though, and we don't need to capture it to react. If you ask me, what is your take on that?
I that I think that's true, definitely.
Hmm.
But my concern is that racism has now been more visible. That's the reason why I made that comment on, people capturing moments, because quite often it's not captured. So most of the times, uh, things aren't done. But definitely, if you're a victim of it, you need to stand out, and we should stop, blending in or sugarcoat stuff. So definitely, when it's done, you need to talk about it. But because of social media, the times that we're in, technology, it's easier. You see people actually videoing stuff, and so basically, I totally agree that we
Yeah,
should not wait for a capture. Absolutely not. Or wait for the next hashtag. So I believe in, turning this moment into a movement. So this protest, it's a good thing, but it will be in vain if after that certain measurements or steps aren't taken. It will just be, another event. But I hope that even with this event we have been able to at least draw the attention and maximize the moment to talk with those that we need to talk to. I hope Rutte heard something. Maybe it could do something with him, and then from the organization that people will just go out and have these
Yeah.
conversations and be especially consistent about it, because we're good in starting something, but we should just take it to the very end.
And really make some good actions plain, and that starts by having the conversation, with our other people who don't
Right.
understand, because especially if it's embedded in the system, you will have people who will react, and it's happening on so many levels. Byron, before we round up, we would really like
Sure.
to know, or wait, I see one more question that I really feel is worth covering. Richie AT is asking, my question is, what are young people in Holland doing to continue to protest as seen in other Western nations, like 1 million protesters in Germany, of all places? I know it's not a question directly to you,
Hmm.
because you are, a leader of a group, but you don't have, a hold of the amount of people
Hmm.
that are.
Exactly.
Do you have any idea of what's going on? What is done in Amsterdam? Something that you are part of that is taking place that
Um,
we can look forward to?
Mhm.
No, the only thing what I can say is that different organizations have approached me to to get stuff going on, but I think this is something that because all these protesting is actually to get the attention of the government, those that are higher. But I think this is an issue that starts from within, from the local, the home, and
Yeah.
and I think it starts from the bottom up and not from the top down. And
Hmm.
so many people are looking at the government for changes, but we should look at ourselves for changes. So we should actually begin to ask ourselves that, who are my friends? Who are my what is my circle all about? Is it only Ghanaians? Is it only Chinese people? Is it only, and ask yourself why. Ask
Yeah.
yourself why you don't have a white friend. Why don't you have a Chinese friend? Why don't you have, and I think again, start with it in your homes, in your house, because like I said, racism is not something from yesterday. And as we all know, I think many people have been even mentioning this a couple of times, systemic racism. It's embedded in the system. So
Yeah.
you cannot change a system that has already made a stand. So we need to we cannot change or influence the system from within the system, but we should stand outside of the system and try, in that way, try to influence the system. So I think it's a challenge, definitely, but we should not just be moved by amount of people protesting, because it will have an impact only as far as we will have intimate, talks and conversation with the right
Mhm.
people around us, and and praying that we will continue to do that, and by so doing, we will influence those around us as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on that note, also a shout out to Gary, who said, you know what, Byron, that was a powerful speech during the BLM
Love you, bro.
protest. Any last words for our listeners, young people out there, because that is really what we're focusing on. Young people out there who are dying to make a change, and that is not literally, figuratively.
Exactly. Now, I think we should ask ourselves this question: is that most of the times when we ask this question, who wants change? We all raise our hands, but when you ask who wants to change, our hands are down. And so I think true change starts from within. And the first question is referred to the external, and the
Mhm.
second is referred to the internal. And I think if we really, really, really want change, don't wait for the next Martin Luther King to rise up. Do your studies, do your homework, have conversations with people. And because I believe if you're passionate enough, definitely that passion can get you to places that you might not even have dreamt of. So I,
Mhm.
I believe that we should be persistent in whatever we believe in, persistent, consistent, and I always say that the world, you have a good character, and you should not let the world change it. but change the world through your good character. So we most often we expect everything around us to change but ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something. It's funny enough, that's a prayer that God will never answer, because
Mm-hmm.
he will change your perspective on things. And that's why I just love the word of God, that talking about this man of God called Paul. He preached God's word. You could put this man in a whole different situation, he will still preach God's word. You would put him in prison and he will
Mm-hmm.
preach God's word. And many of us, when we're placed in prison or in uncomfortable positions, we change our speech, we change our mindset. All of a sudden we're no longer good.
Yeah.
And see, and good is always when bad happens. Are you still then good? If people hate on you, do you still love them? So do not change yourself for the world, but let the world change through your character. So
I love that.
I
And
like that
on
one. Yeah.
I like that one as well. I'm keeping that. I'm taking notes. Thank you very much, Byron, for having the time to talk to us. I know it's Sunday. You're probably on a daddy duty or anything of that. Thank you for being with us. Hopefully, that subsequently we can have you on the show
sure.
again,
Thank you so much for
and
having me.
and have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Bless you guys. I love you guys.
Okay, bye
Love you
bye.
too, bro.
Bye bye.
All right. Well, for those of you who just tuned in, you're listening to Africa on Focus Lockdown Specials. And I'm here with my fellow host, Donnie, who takes the time out on his Sunday evening to have a talk with us with
Absolutely.
anything, relating to African matters and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The comments and everything are still coming up. It's still coming up. So I expect this particular episode to be extra engaging.
Let's go.
um,
I'm ready.
I'm ready for it. Absolutely. If you're anywhere listening from wherever you are, especially if you are on Facebook, feel free to share, to spread the word that on Africa on Focus, here is where we share our success stories, true stories from Africans, from global Africans. And today we have an interesting theme, a monthly theme that I absolutely love to introduce, where I have two other panelists, two impactful, change making, forward thinking people that join us on our conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
Let's Chat Africa is a bi monthly talk with global Africans where we talk on matters arising in our communities, our world in the most inspirational, engaging, and educative way. And today we are going to talk on a very interesting topic, this Black Lives Matter thing that is going on. More than a thing, it's now growing. It's taking roots into our societies and things. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Topic of today is the problems of Black people. Do we have problems, Donnie?
Do we have problems? Yes, we all have problems, right?
We
Yeah.
all have problems.
For
Absolutely.
for for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of the Lord.
Abs-
As our
ab-
brother Byron will agree. Yes. So yeah, we
Absolutely.
do have problems.
Well, with that said, let me invite our co-panelists, Liz Camelia and Nene McRich, to talk about the problems within our society, Black Lives Matters, our current happenings, and what we could do to implement change. Let me just take them on and get this conversation for to happen. Hello, Liz.
Hello there.
Hi,
It's
how
been
are
a
you
Hey,
guys
while.
doing? How's everything?
good, good. It's been a minute, isn't it?
I think Nene
Yeah,
is on mute.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, there he
Hey,
is.
am I
Yo.
audible enough?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
you
I can
are.
hear
perfect.
you.
You are definitely. Liz, how have you been? Good to have you back.
Yes, it's been a while. I've been doing okay. I'm writing my thesis, so it's been a hectic few weeks with all the
Ooh.
quarantines and schools being shifted to online. But it's going well. It's getting better and better. So yeah,
Good, good.
Nice.
I saw the study scenery and I was like, oh, we're interrupting our study week. We're
yeah,
stealing some 30 minutes of your time.
yeah. It's fine. It's fine to get a let's say a pause from doing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how is this quarantine season been treating you? It's been almost 4 months already.
Yeah. it's I think in the beginning it was like I was going crazy in my house. I was like, this is not it. I would like stare outside. I would catch myself staring at my window for like 25 minutes. I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
Oh no.
but I think now it's like getting used to it a little bit, and because we have like more possibilities now, it's not as psychologically damaging, I think. But yeah, it's been manageable. I can say that I've been lucky. Heard other stories that have not been as good, but yeah, for me it's been manageable.
And staring out of the window every now and then.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of it.
I love it, love it. Nene, how are you? Good to have you. Good to have you back.
I'm good. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me also.
Great, great. How has been your Sunday?
Isn't this his first appearance?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Good to have you on here, Nene. Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you very much,
uh,
Donnie.
you
It's
good,
it's been
brother?
yeah.
My Sunday has been it has been good. Just trying to work on some few school assignments and all that, and also do some few stuffs for work. So basically, yeah. But it has been relaxing. Yeah.
Yeah. And how has the quarantine season been keeping you?
Well, I would say I have really not experienced the quarantine season, like staying at home, working from home, and all that, because most of my time, even though school, I couldn't go to school, and most of our lectures was on Microsoft Team. But with work, I was almost every now and then, like at work. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the office, or I mean, at the
No, at the
building.
office. Yeah,
Okay,
inside,
okay.
inside, yeah, at the office in the building.
Right. So you have been slightly adapting, but you've been okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah. For some reason, the staring out of the window that Liz mentioned, it sounds quite relaxing. It does. I would have loved to do the same. Really, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. So have any of you been demonstrating? I know it's been this last couple of weeks with the Black Lives Matters and George Floyd. That thing happening. Has any of you demonstrated? Have you caught wind of what's been going on?
I have not. I've been keeping up to it with it. I've had some friends go demonstrate, but I've not because I was, I think, prioritizing finishing my thesis.
Yeah,
Even though it was like a very different mental state because my mind was like, okay, this is gonna be a protest now. Because I'm like, okay, let me try to finish this part, and if I finish, I can go. And it wasn't realistic. But I have been keeping up with it. I've been following it. But I prioritize just staying at home and like finalizing the projects I need to finalize.
yeah. Yeah, making a change, making that specific change by actually getting, the educational goals done and making changing your environment. Let me just
Yeah,
put it that way.
yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right. What about you, Nene?
Yeah, I would say physically, I wasn't protesting, but virtually, with my words on social media and all that. Yes, I was actually engaged in that, and I was also following what was going on. So yeah, I also had a lot on my plate, with regards to school and then also with work. So physically, I couldn't protest myself, but I have
Yeah,
been very active on social media, throwing words in day in and day out, and trying to have a voice out there to contribute to what is already ongoing. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I must say that I think this is a very interesting period. Not just that video, because especially in the states, has been going on for years. But really now, just the time lapse in which all of these videos are coming out. You know what I mean? This person being shot here, and then this other white woman who, did you see that video, who actually uses her power and says, I'm going to call the police. and I tell them there is a African American man bothering me and my dog, which is just absolutely crazy. Just the time lapse in which these videos are dropping, and also to see that, you know, Black Lives Matters, which was around for a while, is now being pushed to the forefront, and we even have the support of so many, you know, diverse people, as in terms of their background, you know, their country of origin. It's now that, you know, Black people are protesting without not just Black people. That's just pretty much what it is. Did any of you expect to see this? What is your take on that?
You can go, Nene. You can go
Okay.
first.
Well, with the issue of racism, I actually what I realized was that it's not really black people against white people, but it is everyone against racism. So that was one thing I realized about it. So yeah, yeah, basically, because I also had white friends who were actually protesting against that, you know. And when this issue came up, it sound a bit weird, you know, when I get to work, you know, some want to engage me into the talk about you know what is going on, but I just choose to keep a distance and not talk about it and talk about something else, because yes, it's you we do have some who it's obvious per character you could actually um see it, but others too are, you know, they feel what is going on. It's more like an additional virus that has added up to this coronavirus thing. So it's like, okay, these people, this class of people are actually um experiencing two pandemics. Okay, it's like a pandemic and another pandemic. So yeah, then I've had a discussion actually with one or two people concerning this issue, not with blacks, but then with other fellow colleagues who are white actually. And my conclusion that I drew from that was that it's actually not a black versus white something, but it is everyone versus racist. Yeah.
Mm.
For me, I have. It was like in the beginning, it was like a phase of shock. I was like, I didn't expect it because, like, if you look at historically, this is not something that has been happening. Like there were, like, if you look at the civil rights movement in the U.S., there were some white people there, but they were part of the minority. But like some of the people that went, black people that went to the protest, they would recollect and saying like there were a lot of white people that they were even shocked about it. So yeah, I think it was a moment of shock, and there were different reasons why people were seeing that was happening.
Yeah.
One is because we're in this time where a lot of people have like free time, let's say, because of the corona. People are more active in seeing these things. The second part was like that video of George Floyd, that's that was so traumatizing and so emotionally
Yeah.
tangible that people felt the need to do something. And of course, there's the side of skepticism that people just want to go out, and people just want to use the protest as a way to escape their quarantine, or people just see this as a trend that like it's popular right now, so we can just participate and not be in trouble. Saying
Yeah.
like, oh, you're not pro black people. We just want to participate and like in the spectacle, let's say. So
Yeah.
there's different reasons why people are seeing, but I think it is a shock. We'll see if this shock results in like change, or if it's just like a trend,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Donnie, what do you think? What was your did you expect it? You as a true Pan African, did you expect for the people that are partaking in resistance being so diverse?
Um, well, yeah, it would only make sense that you have a lot of people from other, let's say, groups or nationalities to join the effort. I mean, here this is Amsterdam, like there are so many other individuals or actually
Yeah.
groups within this city.
Yeah.
Um, And yes, when I was there, yeah, I was also, let's say, overwhelmed by the participation of the other groups, as well as the participations of people from our own. So even, the black community, they really showed up, which was very positive, and backed by the other group. It made it more. I think so. That's the bigger impact, or let's say the bigger essence of the demonstrations going on now
Hmm.
than the previous ones, is the fact that there is a huge show up, maybe due to the what Liz said, the free time and stuff that we have now during this pandemic, that
Yeah.
has allowed our group to show up in that manner. And then, as well as also the other people from other groups who also show up in big numbers. That combination is different than what we had seen before. And on top of that, also the virtual engagement, and that also Brother Nene is active in. That is also with the social media and the free time that we have. It's just, you see the message, you share it. Automatically, someone else sees it, they share it. So, and it's hard to scroll past, because eventually you get to see it from someone or whomever, and
Yeah.
multiple times of the day. So that's also been ongoing, and it's bigger now than we had seen before. So that is a big, let's say, takeaway, and it's a huge impact on on self, really. Not necessarily practical, but we can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think also on social media, because the social media thing really, I think I saw this at, was it a report? They went on and showcased the demonstration in Paris, in Amsterdam, of course. Was it Perth? I think it was London, just outside of the United States of America. What I'm thinking though is it fair to say this is not a black and white thing? Because if we like regard where it's coming from, which is like this old age problem, right? This old age way of thinking that has been embedded into the system. And at the end of the day, we black people are regarded as something because of the color of our skin. Um, it just doesn't matter where we even look. If we look at who is at the bottom of society or any society, you just see black people. Do you think it's fair, for us to say it's not a black and white thing?
Um, if I may, I think there is this feeling of wanting to have like this unity, or not wanting to make people uncomfortable by
Hmm.
saying like, oh, it's not you, it's like, oh, there's other races out there. um
Yeah.
and I think we've been doing that for a while just to not make white people uncomfortable, but like I think that we have to, because in reality it's not about black versus white, it's about white supremacy, and white supremacy can be everywhere, but the people that benefit from white supremacy are white people. Those are the people that benefit from it, and those are the people that can dismantle it. We as black people, we can dismantle it. So they carry the responsibility of these issues. So even though it's not personally black versus white, institutionally it is.
Hmm.
So I think we need to stop considering white comfort above black existence,
Hmm.
because we are dying. We have less access to opportunities. We have less access to resources, to healthcare,
Hmm.
and we still are prioritizing our white friends' feelings and their sadness or their happiness or their fragility over
Yeah.
ourselves. So I get our like the idea, but like at a certain time, like I don't care if it's like black against white. I don't care if you're uncomfortable with that, or if it's like politically correct, because the cost of
Mm.
it is too great.
What would you say, Nene? Because I would, because you were more into, saying it's not really a black and white thing. Do you think it's fair if we let's say we look at it from like a white supremacy angle, which it is basically what it
Well,
is.
well, I will start. I will start with. I'll start by making this point. Is sometimes when it happens like that, it's just as Byron said. I listened when he was talking. It has to do with ignorance, and when ignorance sets in, you act in a certain way. So I wouldn't. In as much as I said yes, it is not a black versus white something, but those who suffers most are the blacks. Okay, there's no two ways about that. Those who suffers most are the black. But
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, it boils down to ignorant because those there, what what if now they come to understand what actually it means, what actually these people are facing, what it means to give them the right or to give them the opportunity that they deserve. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they have not come to such an understanding, and it takes a whole different platform to educate them on that level,
Mm-hmm.
because it has to start. It's something that actually starts from the root.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it starts from the root and it's traced back to history, and it's like it's something that has already been established, and they all tread on that line, and it just continues like that. But what if what started earlier was was settled, was that how it emanated? It was actually let's say that ignorance was actually curbed.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have gone a long way to have an effect today.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery we all talk about actually started in the past, even though
Yeah.
now it's not really physical, but it is now, even though it's not really physical, but it is now more of a mental something. It's more attacking uh, black's emotion. Okay, so for me, I think still it is, yeah, it is not black versus white thing. It is not black versus white thing because not all the whites are ignorant. Not all of them are ignorant. Some know, some know, and
So you're saying
yeah,
so you're saying ignorance kind of dissolves or um, eliminates the white versus black factor, or the white versus black opposition in white supremacy. Are you saying
yeah.
ignorance is
When
the
when when you that is when the ignorance is taken out,
yeah?
when the ignorance is gotten rid of, I believe that there will be that balance. But it is they are acting out of ignorance because they don't. I believe they don't really understand what it means, or like should I say they don't really understand the status of the black man, or of the black
Mm.
person. I don't know if you get me.
Yeah,
Can I
I think I get you. Yeah,
can I
sure.
just add one thing, because like
Yeah.
there's been articles written about this. Wecker and Asset, they wrote about ignorance, and they called it smug in ignorance, especially in the Netherlands. Ignorance is not an excuse for you to be innocent. There is enough resources. We all came up, especially if you're black and you came up in like white institutions, you have to do a lot of unlearning and a lot of learning. We are accountable towards our knowledge. There is no excuse for people to be ignorant. You're choosing to be ignorant. You're choosing to ignore these things just for you to feel comfortable. That's why I say again, it's just about, oh, they're ignorant, they don't know. Why don't they know? You can search these things. That's why we have these things. Like they're here. Like you can, it's not like this information is inaccessible, and they're like they choose like they. I think you should read that article about smug ignorance. About, you're not just because you don't have access to knowledge, you're choosing to be ignorant. So that absolves you from innocence. You do
But
not get
but
to be
but
like, oh, I didn't know, because it's there. The
but
Exactly.
information
here's the
is
thing though.
there.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's a
I actually
choice.
think
It's a choice, and they chose to
oh,
be.
mhm. And
It's a
I
choice.
actually think with Nene, when he's speaking of ignorance, he actually means the inability to, or the lack of empathy, really. So not necessarily not knowing that people are, let's say, marginalized, or people are being looked down upon, or I mean, bullying happens, and you can see someone being bullied. However, if you're not bullied yourself, you do not understand, and that's the thing, understanding. So in that sense, yes, a lot of people outside of the community of the black community, or of the people within the white community, they lack that understanding of what these people are really going through. So, but still, of course, that's not it's not, in my judgment, or in my opinion, it doesn't eliminate the white versus black opposition. But here's the thing, though, because we speak of white supremacy.
Mhm.
So if we agree it's a white supremacy, then it's a white versus something, or white versus any other thing. Um, and so, I think it's fair to say it's white versus black. I'm not going to say, oh no, it's not. It's racism against the
Yeah.
rest. Yeah, but that racism is the white supremacy that we're facing today, right?
Mhm.
In 1,000 years, it may be something else,
Yeah.
or 2,000 years ago, there was still, let's say, differentiation or discrimination upon other characteristics, but race was not the factor, um, till what, 1,000 years ago, and then it started, or maybe less than 500 years ago. Then it started in that manner. So that's what we are facing with right now. So it's that racism that was created, or the idea, the philosophy that was built as a center of white supremacy. That's what we're facing. So automatically, for me, when we talk about racism, we have to say, all right, that's white supremacy. And we don't say supremacy, we say white
Right.
supremacy. So, it's inevitable to be like, the discussion is white versus something else. And yes, that opposition is there. Just, but that's what we face. And that's the reality of things. Um, and I'm not, people can disagree, but this is how I see it.
Yeah, I would have to side with Lise and Donny, especially that last point that you made. Actually, the comments, people are like firing in the
Oh yeah.
comments. I can't
I
leave
can
it.
see them.
I cannot leave it alone. For those of you who just tuned in, you're listening to Africa on Focus, and this is Let's Chat Africa, a bi-monthly segment that comes on High Radio, as if you are listening today. And here is where we talk about topics that matter in our communities as it relates to global Africans. Shout out to Richie A.T., who is firing in the comment box. And first of all, he is saying slavery never ended, periods. It was rebranded and packaged in colorful wrap paper to fool those that can't see the past or can't see past the packaging. What is your take on that? What do you guys think?
Yeah. I think that I agree. I agree. I think that
Uh,
slavery has been shifted because slavery has always been a economic ideology. It's been an ideology.
Mhm.
The reason why slavery existed is because people justified black inferiority. People justified money over people, over
Yeah.
humanity, and that still is prevalent. This mentality hasn't changed, and the way that they manifested it is that they taught us, the ones that were enslaved, the ones that were oppressed, that to uphold these ideologies of slavery. So I totally agree. I was listening to a podcast and
uh,
about yeah.
I disagree.
Okay.
Slavery, um, you can say it has been repackaged, but just by changing the packaging of it, well, I mean, the idea can be the same. However, we're not going to act like, or we're not going to compare today's slavery with what our ancestors were going through. We just cannot do that. It's the same that you can't, let's say, Jewish people or the Jewish community will not allow you to to compare a murder scene with a Holocaust or with genocide. You just cannot do it. It's, it just devalues the impact or the suffering that people went through physically and mentally without choice. Slavery now is probably, because they still claim it's slavery because there's still oppression going on, and there's still this mental slavery through institutions or not going on. Fine. However, you cannot say I would, I just can't sit back for people to still call it slavery and across times. And then, because when we talk about slavery, it's hard to point out that there is slavery going on right now. Like, and this is the thing. Let's say the today's generation of white people have actually, because we claim we are being oppressed, and they asking us, show us the oppression then, right? And and that's the thing, right? Because you cannot show the literal oppression of go on your knees, do this, or watching your mom or dad being murdered in front of you, and those things you can't show it. It has taken a different form. The idea may be the same, but slavery wasn't the idea. Slavery was a tool. So yes, it's fair to say that that idea of white supremacy is still now, but white supremacy is not slavery. Slavery, it has, well, ended. However, people may see it. There are some footage showing up about some slave trade going on in the Arab and North African part of the globe. But it's hard to go somewhere, and except in the penitentiary institutions, to go out there in the world and still see slavery. It's not there anymore. It's not used as a tool anymore. It's not even necessary to be used as a tool anymore. Slavery is done, in my opinion. And to still call it slavery, what we're facing now, it's demeaning, or it's devaluing the impact or the suffering of those who really went through slavery, whether it was 400 years ago or 600 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Why? Because slavery has always been there. Racism not, but slavery has been there, described in the Bibles. Which we believe that has been here for 2,000 years or 6,000 years, right? So it's there. It's always been used as a tool, and it's a practice. However, the idea that racist white supremacist idea that used or took slavery and just totally, threw it in a different direction. And which I also push my white friends with, when they say, "Yeah, but Donny, slavery, the white man did not create slavery. It has always been there." I get it. We Africans, within tribalism, we all also enslaving people from other tribes. However, the thing is, racism was not the philosophy upon which we practice slavery. Racism is not the philosophy upon which slavery is described in the Old Testament. And so that's the differentiation I need people to understand. And it's a mistake, and it's an ongoing mistake and misunderstanding of slavery, of the philosophy of white supremacy and racism. When you mash those things up, you just don't have a strong stand to stand on. Like, people was, yeah, so it's people really have to define things, and upon that, then the real discussions can also to be held upon the definitions that people come up with.
Well,
Yeah.
in a way, I disagree, because I think slavery has been repackaged. Okay, and It's though it's not really a physical thing, that it's not really tangible, but it is indirect. That is what is happening now. It is indirect. Even if in the corporate world, even if you do your best, there are certain positions that are reserved for certain people. Okay, and no matter how hard you push, there is always this tag that as there is always this tag, smart slave. There is this smart slave who made this. There is this smart slave who did this. They never give you the credit as this person. And if you realize on social media, or like things that actually goes, when there is an invention, there is a way, there's a way it's been defined on social media when there's an invention, and this invention has to come from, you know, a black man. And there is also a way they target when it's an invention from, you know, from a white person. It's Slavery hasn't ended. That's It's a fact. It hasn't. Honestly, it hasn't, but it is just indirect. It is just an
Yeah,
indirect
but
thing right
it,
now.
having it indirect, it changes a whole lot. That's my point. And being indirect with it, again, if you are going to say oppression, fine. If we, so I think for with me, it's more semantics. So um, instead of using the word slavery, I would say oppression.
So how can you take oppression
Um,
out of that? When you talk about slavery, it's not is slavery not
well,
indirectly an oppression?
be,
So how can you
no,
take oppression and then
because
nullify the
there
fact
is
that it's not slavery?
no, because there is oppression in bullying. However, not everyone who bullies is a slave master or, you know, so we recognize there is oppression, and we even recognize there is oppression in when you look up and down, when you size in your person, like within the Ghanaian culture, when you look someone from top to bottom and up down, it's like, what are you trying to do, right? So that we recognize, hey, there is this oppression, or you know, there's someone is looking down upon you, but we're not saying there's slavery going on, you
But
know.
I
So
think
slavery is, yeah,
no, I understand the idea of semantics and the idea of being careful with how we say things, but at the same time,
yeah,
um, I racism evolves. I mean, racism is not stagnant. The racism
mm,
that existed in the '60s does not exist now. These institutions are not, they evolve because we create solutions. We create the civil rights movement. They create policies, but racism keeps evolving. As that's the same way with slavery. Slavery is an institution. If you see it as like the reactions of the beatings and things like that, of course you're going to say that slavery doesn't exist. But if you look at it at an institutional level of like inequality, like not only racial inequality, the construction of race, racial inequality, gender inequality, violence, the use of violence, the dehumanization. If you look at all those characters, they didn't go away. If you
but
say
yeah,
like, oh, if you consider slavery the physical act of being beaten, yeah, of course. But if you look at it as an institutional oppression, because I believe that we tend to not want to call these things too radicalized, because then it's too, oh, you're crazy, like slavery doesn't exist. But if you look at it as an institution, it didn't go away. Like, it's still
yeah,
about hierarchies. It's still about you are less worthy because of who you are, because of the color of your skin, because of the gender that you carry or you identify with. These things has not gone
so
away.
that,
They have just evolved into new policies that create human rights, into new policies that protect against these types of violence. People are being shot just because they're black. People
Yeah.
are being, we work like 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, and we still can't find a viable living. We're still stuck in the system.
Yeah.
We these institutions, these companies, they're not benefiting from black labor, but they're benefiting from black money. You know how many of these white institutions are existing because of our contributions that have shifted from
no,
labor to money. It's not that it's gone away, it's just transformed and adapted. It's become
But will you
hidden.
still call it slavery though? That's the thing. Will
Yes,
you still
because
call it slave,
It's
or
a
will you
different
call it
the packaging.
oppression?
no, because it is the institutions, the institution in itself, it is still the same. If you look at the elements of it, if you look at the elements of slavery, that is the idea of black inferiority, the idea of violence against black bodies, the idea of using um, black contributions to benefit from it. Those things,
But
that was the
but
essence of
that's the point. No, but
just.
that definition, but that definition,
Mhm.
whites cannot contribute. I mean, they are their easiest and actually best response to give to this definition of slavery is we did not create slavery.
But
Because you
no,
are
no, wait.
saying,
Just before, let me go back to, because you said that point already. There's a difference between the slavery that existed in the Bible and like historically in like the Silk Road and things like that, and the slavery that existed in like the 19 in the beginning of the 1600s. That's why specifically in literature they call that chattel slavery, because nothing that existed before in
Mm.
slavery was like that. Like in the slavery that existed in Africa, you can be a slave of a household, but afterwards you can be part of the family. You can evolve and you can be, your kids will be taken care of. In the slavery that existed in the Atlantic slave trade, that was a creation of white supremacy. That never existed before. Chattel slavery is something that was so inhumane and so devastating and so dehumanizing that it never existed
right,
before. So when white people say that they didn't create slavery, they created a slavery that was so dehumanizing and crazy that all the other types of slavery was like, nah, nah,
right. So
you win.
then I think to be more specific to the issues, or let's say to the to this conditions that we are in, instead of referring to it as slavery, maybe chattel slavery is a better name for it. Why? Because this, people who study law, you have to be precise what you are saying and what you are asking for. Again, if you want to ask for instance, reparations for slave trade or slavery, well, then we could ask for reparations now. Why? Because according to some, slavery is still going on. So then we should our kids should be asking for reparations of what we are going through. So we have to be more precise, otherwise these conversations again will just hover somewhere. White people will listen to it and be like, well, this doesn't make sense, but what they're talking about has been here. It has nothing to do with us, right?
Alyssa's like shaking her head like I don't even care about
I don't care what white people think.
it.
Like honestly, they can think whatever they want. This is not about them. Like
Yeah.
because I understand
Yeah,
your point. I understand the idea of semantics. I understand the point, but sometimes I'm talking about ideologies. I'm talking about the ideas of inferiority. That has not changed. And like if we can talk, I think it's a valid point to say like as we evolve and in order to create solutions that are specific to what we need now, we need to change our language. Language needs to evolve with it. I agree. But if you look at institutionalized, the ideology is the same. So I think we, yeah, I think we're coming from different perspectives because I can see your point. I can see your point.
Right, right. Same here. And people are fuming in the comment box, by the way, just to let you all know. Anyway, for those of you tuned in, this is Let's Chat Africa, where we as global Africans talk about matters arising in our community. And Black Lives Matters, the incident, or more than incident, the traumatizing happening that took place with George Floyd, which is, in my opinion, a life wasted. Around the world, people are talking about, it had to happen so that people could be woken up. I really feel like it didn't have to happen. It just shows that the work that people were working on in the 80s, 90s hasn't been resolved. And I really want to take this to, because as we are going into the last 10 minutes and taking on some comments from our listeners, I really want to get into some of the solutions that Black people have been working on, next to demonstrating on social media, for instance, because those platforms are easy to be accessed by individuals. People have been doing the hashtag BOB, support your Black owned business, implementing that. pretty much awakening this type of desire as to, hey, if we're in the system and they're going to look at us in some way, because no matter what happens, we're always regarded as either a criminal or something else because of the color of our skin. Let's then start to refocus and empower our communities and do that. So which also makes us to run into a couple of problems, such as while we apply for work. That is one issue, because people would often disregard us based on our color, but not disregard their fellow white person. And this is actually backed up by research, that white people tend to associate their people that they identify with a more positive story. I think I shared the other day a video that was made by a Dutch lady, who made some documentation surrounding the topic of Black Pete, which is Zwarte Piet here in the Netherlands. And for those of you who really wonder what that is about, I would really recommend you look it up, so that whole story I could save some time and to have you look that one up. But they did this type of testing. They did a test between a white person, a Northern African looking person, and a Black person. And the test was that, all of them, they put them in a case or situation where they were trying to break open um, uh, um, a bike with a children's seat on it, and then look at how random people in the park would react. And funny thing is, with the white person, when people pass by and them later interviewing white people in the park that were passing by, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we understood. He's probably a dad. He's his car just needs to be fixed. Blah blah blah." But with the Northern African looking person, some people were really kind of looking strange. But when it happened with the Black persons, or the Black person actually working on the bike to open the lock, you had people filming him, people bringing out their telephones, asking him, "What are you doing?" The police came and stopped by twice. You know what I mean? So she really put this out to showcase that what Black people are saying is not nonsense. They are not lies. Black people are not exaggerating. It's absolutely crazy. So these are one of the examples that we can point out that happen in our society around the globe, just around the globe. And with that said, I will connect it with one question of our listeners, who is Andrew Adams. His question is to all the panel: what's your take on optical tactics of white privilege supremacy, where a few Black people get to benefit from or given certain opportunities deliberately to make it look like white privilege isn't a real thing? I.e., oh, hey, we have a Black person on our team. So what you mean? If you qualified, you'll be here too. What is your take on that?
I think that's
Not
that's
all at once.
that's called the token Black person.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, it's complicated, because we've seen videos of, for example, women that maybe are starting on on an internship on
Yeah.
spaces, and like the white people come and touch her hair, and you can see that she's uncomfortable, but she's just an intern, and this is an opportunity for her. So it comes between like the balance of like self growth and the balance of like your Blackness being protected. But I think that goes back to the connection of like, if we have our own spaces where people can do their internships, where people can have access to these things, people we don't have to be the token Black person. We because it's not a something that is very it's not black and white. I understand being in spaces that you
Yeah.
have to deal with these microaggressions because you have to eat, you have to pay your bills. But I think it goes back to the idea of, if we have our own spaces, our own institutions that stand up for who we are and what our our humanity, then it can be easier. Because where do we go when we experience these things? Where do we go when they you use our own people to hold us out? We don't. We have no space to go. But if you look at, for example, and this is not a justification of the xenophobia, but if you look at China, Chinese the Chinese have institutions. If a Chinese person comes to the Netherlands, they don't go to the government. They have their institutions. Okay, you can get housing by a Chinese person. You can get a job by a Chinese person. They have institutions that protect them from these issues. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I think that goes back to the point of like we need to have our own institutions that don't have to. We don't have to depend so much on these white institutions.
Mm, right. Anyone else?
How
Another
about the go?
another question from Andrew Adams. Let me see. To all the panel, what do you make of the indoctrination of kids back home in Africa, especially in rural areas, who till date see a white man and think they've seen salvation? What can we do to eradicate this mental slavery at the roots so that our next and, of course, current generation of Black people don't carry the mentality of being less of humans when they have to do anything with a white man included? And that's the bit of, the Black people's problems that I really wanted to refer to, is also, the type of thinking that we have taken on ourselves. Nene, do you still, as a Ghanaian, because you probably also experienced, especially back in the day, that the white man was often regarded or connected with wealth, and you can trust them, and things like that. Do you still see that? And how do you fight against that?
Well, that's for sure. It's really evident when you go back, when you go to Africa, and then especially in the rural areas where there is this saying that they said, when you're going to church and you see a white man, you have to return back home because you have met God. And that
Right.
is, yeah, that is some kind of painting that had been painted. That is the notion, or that is the kind of education that has been given to to um to the Africans back then, or should I say to the generation back then. And so it's like, and I wouldn't say it's started with the black, but then it started with the whites that visited Africa, that went to Africa. And the manner and way in which they were able to capitalize the mind of the black man, and then also to influence and make them branded themselves in a certain way, to actually influence the dependency of the black man, of the black man on the white man. And so as we're growing up, it's like, okay, um, we depend on the white man for almost everything, and the white man provides for us everything. That is more or less like we see, the white man is being branded as a god. And the way I think maybe we can actually deal with this thing is actually providing, it's actually letting those people know their history. Because now, if you don't know who you are, or you don't know where you're coming from, you don't understand your root, or you don't understand who you are as a black man, you always depend on the other person, because you first devalue yourself. So we first need to attack the point where we need to actually place value on ourselves as Black people, because it starts from there. And also how we can actually develop that kind of mental capability to be able to withstand all those all those should I say diluted education from the white person. Sorry to say the white person, but yeah, I'm just being real, from the white person. Because we always wanna we that is how we were trained. Okay, even it still exists up to now, up to date, that even almost virtually almost everything that we have to do in Africa, it's more or less like the white person decides for us. Even the top guys in Africa, even it's more or less like the white person decides for them. And so it
Yeah.
goes way down to the children. And the first thing is placing value on ourselves, to know who we are. If you don't understand where you are coming from, or if you don't understand who you are as a black person, you will never get to appreciate who you really are. And it's like you get blown by every every decision made by the white person, or so. So yeah, for me, I think with this, it has to start from within, we ourselves. It has to start
Yeah.
from educating the young ones, history wise. Let them understand the kind of people, the value, like how valuable they are. Let them understand their worth, because then if they understand their worth, it's for me, I think it's a mental thing.
Yeah.
So till we are
Absolutely.
able to invade their minds, to educate them, to make them understand the black identity, we're still going to be captured. We're still going to we're still going to be in that state of mental slavery.
Yeah.
We're still going to be in that state of mental slavery. So it is we attacking the minds, making them understand their worth as black person, or making them know who they are. And in a way, we can also talk about black supremacy. Yeah.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Did you guys follow the Terry Crews comment that he made on Twitter?
I've seen some videos from Breakfast Club dropping by. I still need to dive into that, but he has some friction going on. I think
That was funny.
definitely. Before we round up, because time is far spent, I think this would really be good to take this on to another segment of Let's Chat Africa, and where we could really go into, what are some of the changes that we could implement as a community, where we can start small and, let it grow in a bigger route. The reason why I say that is because a lot of, people that are uncomfortable with these changes would mention, oh, go back to Africa, or, because that is really something that is often said, go back to Africa, go back to Africa. But if we are realistically speaking, it's not everyone's desire to go back to Africa. You have many that are willing, and are many that are contemplating and planning, but some really look to build their lives wherever they are outside of the continent. And many people say, then we have to start doing it like the Chinese, work on our community, start building our businesses, start making our own education, start putting things in place. The other one says, you know what, it's time that we often travel back to the continent to have some ideas. Could each of you share a bit of what are some of the changes that we as young global Africans could start making before we wrap it up?
Um,
Yeah, ladies
I
first.
okay. I think again, I think it is the idea of creating our own institutions. I think Africa should become a refuge for Black people, and that doesn't literally mean that we all have to move back. But if there are issues for against Black people, Africa should be like, hey, you guys are hurting my peoples. Watch out! Like, I'm a political power that you guys don't want to mess with. The same way China does with its people, Africa should have that same voice. And
Yeah.
I think the way that we do that as young people is start creating institutions like here in Europe and connecting them back
Yeah.
to the continent. How can we create these institutions, change education? How can we provide knowledge? How can we provide like a connection, like through business, through entrepreneurship, through
Yeah.
politics that goes beyond the institutions of the NGOs or the white politicians. So yeah, I think starting to create ideas, starting to create spaces that allow Africa to grow into a refuge for Black people globally, I think that should be our main focus as young people.
Hmm. All right. Okay. So Liz said, black people, we need, Africa should be, let's say, a place for us. Uh, here's also one misconception, or a misunderstanding, where it also, again, it's kind of like, um, it pushes the conversation into a different realm where we just don't need it to be. When we refer to people as black people, like for instance, when we refer to Chinese, because there is a China, and China has institutions somewhere for Chinese people, we refer to them as Chinese people. When it comes to black people, we want to say black people, but where is black land, right? So it's when we start referring to those of African diaspora as Africans, then we can make a call to Africa to create institutions for these Africans everywhere else. Because when we go black people, yeah, where's it's like where's Negro land, you know? Oh, so it's for me it starts with these things, redefining our definitions, the words that we use within the spaces and areas. I mean, if you're at home and you're talking, fine, we understand each other. But when we understand or when we see the problem as a issue of all people, then we really have to be specific with the terms that we use. Again, I refer to black people as Africans. From a Pan Africanist point of view, we are all Africans. And we had this was, I think, the last topic that we had with Let's Chat Africa, right? So I was, we all Africans. So then, upon that notion, we can call upon Africa to create. I mean, these are Africans, whether they're Dominicans, whether they are Jamaicans, whether Surinamers, these are Africans. They are home. They come from Africa. These are Chinese. China, do it. These are Russians everywhere else. Russia, come. Come for your people. That's and these are Europeans. England. However, United States is as now. They know the English people, right? So that tie within between England, Great Britain, and the United States is always going to, because that's where they come from. From Europe, they are Europeans as well. But again, black people, not black people, Africans. That's one. And the next thing I will say is back to the comment or the question from Andrews when he was specifically, and I like his question or how he phrases his question, because within his question is already telling you the focus points of let's say the thought process of figuring the answer to the problem, or this, it's kind of rhetorical, but it he still asked the question, and he's saying, so they have seen salvation, or till date people see in Africa the white men, and they think they have seen salvation. Our brother Nene also confirmed that by saying, when you've seen the white men, you have seen God. Within which um, aspect of life do we refer to a God? That's within our spirituality. I had a conversation with one of my other brothers, and he was saying, the thing that the white man came to Africa when he came to or destroy Africa with, one, take away their spirituality or take away their God, and then also take away their resources. Those were the only two things. So, and I followed up with the question, so how would you repair Africa? And then he started with all these other means, protesting this and that. And I go, wait, if they only use two means or two goals to destroy a nation or a group, why wouldn't you use those two same goals to restore them? So I would say the answer to that is also restore the spirituality. And I think Nene was also referring to that of, giving them back their own identity. For me, it goes further, or it goes deeper, specific, to give them back their spirituality, and then also leave their resources for them without any, influence or through any other political measures. Give them back their spirituality. Dr. Umar Johnson would say, when you go to every other nation in the world, their God looks like them. Their God comes from their own specific group. The Christians have the Europeans or the Romans had their Roman Catholics, or their Catholic Christian religion, where their Mary was white, their Jesus was white, and all those things. Why do we as Africans have to accept this as our religion when our God, Jesus is their God, doesn't look anything like them? And again, we back to Nene, we can also say give them back their identity. But why how would you give back their identity while still maintaining their spiritual or the other god that does not look like you? It's like the Netherlands, we say it's like dweilen met de kraan open. It's like you mopping the floor while the tap is still turned. Like, you're not going to succeed anywhere. So we have to identify those things that have doctrinated or indoctrinate us to think or to feel inferior in a way, whether spiritual, mental, physical, wherever that is, and then we can fix it. And to include that black supremacy comment that you made, then we can include or use that black supremacy to restore whatever that has been broken down within us as a nation. I think that sums up what I had to say.
All right. One of us haven't said one. Is it
Yeah,
Miss or
I
Nene?
have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, with addressing such issue, I actually want to first start with the pandemic, that is corona pandemic. It's something unexpected and something that happened, and we quickly found measures to it. Okay, but what is happening to the black man, or what is happening today to the black person, is was already existing. Okay, it's not any new pandemic, but then the question is, what are the measures that were put in place? What measures were put in place to protect the lives of the black person, of the black people? Sorry, you know. So as Donny tried to solve it from a religious perspective, okay, but I also believe that if the black if Africans, okay, we have a body, a strong body that could actually protect the lives of Africans wherever they are, and in spite their nationality, I think that can actually help, or that can actually help curb this problem that is actually ongoing with racism and all that. And also institutions, just as Liz said, having strong institution established by the black man, by the African community. We have the strong institutions in place, and then creating networks for ourselves. And I believe it would be very much easy to actually educate the masses through that, because then they have something tangible to hold on to. They have something tangible that influences them. They have something tangible that actually they know will protect them when something comes up, and they know who to depend on, and it wouldn't have to be dependency on the other, but then they know something of their own. They know that they have something of their own they can actually go back to depend on. They have something on their own that actually defines certain level of confidence in them. And I believe with that, yeah, we should be able to curb such uh, what is going on, the issue of racism and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many things that we've said, and like I said, this deserves a part two because people are fuming still in the comments. Shout out to Andrew Adams. I mean, he comes with some good questions, that we could really touch on. He has a question regarding, could there really be a United States of Africa? And also about the governmental institutions copying a Western approach, whether that really works. I think I'm going to take his question on to the part two, where we still have to decide on which day that particularly would be. But we should definitely come back to it, because I think it's really important that for wherever our global Africans are out there in the world, that we could start, implementing change with us, whether that be from a business approach, whether that be from an educational approach, us giving schooling or teaching from our house, while aside from the white man's education, our kids can also get some Black history, indoors, and if that is the case, what do we teach our children and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I personally think, and this is just my personal approach, that the topic, and this is something that I've gotten through one of the videos I watched from Dr. Umar Johnson, Minister Farah Khan, and other, leaders of Black community that also happen to be religious leaders, is that it's hard to tell a person, oh, the religion that you have is through some type of brainwash. It is really hard because within that, choosing your religion, everybody is free to pick on whatever they can. However, when it comes to what we can do for our political environment, economic environment, and things, there are things that we could really unite on in spite of the religion that we have. And it's almost the same as what Byron said at the beginning. He even had people of his same faith coming to him and saying, I never was aware that I had some underlying racism. So that also points out to say that people could be of the same religion, but they could be fighting each other on the area of economics, politics, or environment or society. You get what I mean? So I really think that it has to do with if we can get education or some good, consistent information about who we are, what could be effective, what could we do to empower ourselves, create business among us? What could we do if we have a group of Africans living in New York or something? What could we do to make sure if one travels that we don't access the business that, is, let me just say white man's business, but we access the business and the connections from our fellow Black ones. I really think that we could sit and think of some ideas on that. Before we round up, I really, really would like to thank a couple of our engaging listeners. Oh my gosh, Richie AT, you should come back more often because you had time. I mean, he really commented on a lot of things that we were talking about. Is also his take on if is there a united Africa unite nation possible. He said, not in this lifetime, perhaps after we have come and gone. Twice is when that information would take place. Shout out to you, Richie AT. And I am going to note down your questions and comments so that we could handle that for the part two of this panel discussion. Also, what he mentioned is Africa feeds the world. Western economies depend heavily on Africa, and yet they have very little regard for us as a people, and that has to stop. I would agree with him on that one. Shout out to Kwabena Obed, who says, great discussion. I am enjoying it. And also, there was another one, a lady who goes by the name of Grace Edu. Also, a shout out to you. Hopefully, you can get to join us for our next panel discussion on this topic. And of course, Byron Kwanning, who also, Liz, you have a lot of support.
Winning.
You have
Joking.
Quinning, yes, Byron Quinning. Liz, you have a lot of supporters that really are like-minded when it comes to your standpoint. And also to note out, this is not to rub each other's opinions against each other, but really engage in conversation and help us
Mhm.
to continue to collaborate. Also, Gio Nana Antonio, I am also going to take on your question for the next discussion, which we will announce on the High Radio social media platforms so that we could come back to it. And again, really implement change also in a way that we could empower each other and become global Africans that could bring about the change that Kwame Nkrumah has been, had been fighting for. All of you, I would really like to know where can people find you online on social media. I think I have a panel that's quite on the down low when it comes to social media, but please do share if you're anywhere on. Liz, on to you.
Yes, so I think on Instagram and on Facebook, you can find me on Liz Camellia. Yeah, but I'm very, very low. I use it mostly to engage. I don't really post a lot, but yeah, that's definitely gonna change. But Liz Camellia on Facebook and Instagram.
Thanks for that. What about you, Nene? You're also undercover, only your Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and then also on Facebook, Nene Makrich.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But I'm not really active on those platforms. It's just when I have to be involved in a discussion like as this. That's when
Right.
I'm, yeah.
Right. What is it with people that like to discuss things? They just don't like to be out there in the open. I think that's what it is. Really, really. And also Donnie, he's also, low key man.
It's not hard to find me. I'm in the streets. Not just
Okay.
but otherwise, you can find me on. I think LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best place to actually find me. Just D Addison. Facebook. I might come back on Facebook because it's also helpful to have me tagged in the high radio whilst
Yeah,
broadcasting. So I might come
absolutely.
back on Facebook for that. But yeah, I mean that's it. Just catch me outside.
On that note, I would like to thank you, thank you, Liz Camelia, for taking the time out in your studies for to engage with us. And definitely, I can't wait to have you on the next discussion where we're going to continue on this topic. And Nene, also thank you. This is your first time being on here. I'll be happy to welcome you next time around, of course. And also on to you, Donnie, my
Mhm.
co-host, who's here all the time to talk to the most, I mean, impressive people all around the world that are making a
Yeah.
change for Africa. I mean, it's been very exciting on this
Hmm.
lockdown series. You can find the recap of this show on Facebook and both YouTube. On YouTube, it's on the Africa on Focus YouTube channel. And on Facebook, of course, you can find us here. Also, the podcast will be out, which you can listen to Africa on Focus, the podcast, on all your streaming platforms. And this recap will be out very soon. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Stay tuned for the
Thank
next
you.
Let's Chat Africa. And God bless everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay motivated,
Yeah.
and have a
Stay safe, everyone.
have a
Yes.
fantastic week.
Yes, sir.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.